This is KiwaniTalk. My name is Ray Scaboria. I'll be your host for this evening's program. KiwaniTalk is a public information program brought to you from the facilities of WDHS at Dearborn High School and by members of the Dearborn Kiwanis Club and students that help us put the programs together. Today, I am very pleased to have as our guest Tyler Moll. Tyler is the exhibit designer at the Dearborn Historical Museum. And I think the title is, your assignment is actually broader than that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I do a lot more than what my job title technically is.
Yeah. Tyler, how long have you been with the museum?
So I've worked at the museum since fall of 2019.
Okay.
And I started obviously just before COVID. We were working on an exhibit about Henry Ford at the time. So I got thrown into that really fast. And then very quickly, COVID happened and we kind of had to switch gears and change around a lot of things at the museum. But we've done a ton of work over the past 4 years that I've been there. We've redone tons of rooms, tons of clean outs, and the museum's better than ever before.
Yeah. My wife works there. Well, she volunteers there Thursday morning, so she kind of sees you running around working on things, you know. And actually, I was there picking her up this week. Usually, I don't, but she had her car something was getting fixed on it, and I saw you come out with a big plastic red thing. I assume it has something to do with one of the children's, one of the youth activities.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were carrying it across, so I guess it went over into the McFadden-Ross house.
Okay.
Maybe downstairs where the kids are.
Probably.
How about you give us a little overview of a few of the projects that you started on right after you got, in the job.
Sure. So the first exhibit that I was thrown into really fast was an exhibit about Henry Ford and some anti-Semitism that we were kind of working on. That went over really well. We had a really positive response. And then the next thing was our basement in the McFadden-Ross house. Had kind of a room that was kind of shut off and not really well used. So I completely gutted it, and we had new lights and electrical put in, and we made it a kid-friendly train space. It's got a model train for kids to play with, and the kids love it.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, COVID happened, and while everybody else was kind of working from home, I got to go in the museum, and I was painting walls, and I was redoing flooring. We had a lot of kind of basic tasks done that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise with a bunch of people walking around. So I did a lot of interior construction work and things like that. And then after that, once we kind of reopened, we worked on doing a second room in our basement, which has a Lincoln log area for kids to play with now. So we had the trains and we have Lincoln logs. And we're slowly kind of working our way through the basement eventually. We also redid a big storage room in the museum. We had a room that we needed more space for artifacts, but it was just full of junk. So we completely emptied it. We got brand new shelving, we painted walls, painted floors, cleaned it all up, and it looks great. And we have tons of really cool stuff stored in there now.
And you can find it.
We can find it, yep. Everything's labeled and numbered and everything. We've done a ton of cleanup in other areas and other rooms. At the Commandant's quarters, we made the period rooms more kind of historically accurate. So I removed a lot of the furniture that was from the wrong periods and the wrong years and put things in there that are actually from the 1830s and 40s like it's supposed to be. And then about 2 years ago, we received a grant from the Institute of Library Sciences, which is a federal grant, for all new exhibit labels and signage for the CQ. And we completely emptied the second floor and we painted it. And we installed all new lighting, new carpets, benches, everything like that. And it's going to be opening soon as a brand new museum of Dearborn. It's going to talk about the history through the decades, starting with Native Americans, going all the way up to the present. So we're just on the cusp of being finished with that. It's been a 2-year-long endeavor, and it's been a lot of fun, but a lot of work. And then we're also planning in the future to repaint a lot of the rooms on the first floor, make them even more period correct to the 1830s when the house was built. and again, working back on the Ross House and making it more of a kid-friendly and fun and updated space too.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of fun projects coming up.
Well, I know we go to activities over there, and I think you did some work along the side of the exhibits changed there, and they got more organized, very much more organized. Yeah. And also in the hallway, things got
the hallway
all redone in the hallway, didn't it?
Yep, we repainted the hallway. We kind of decluttered it. We removed some of the cases and things that stuck out that made it hard to walk. We reused those cases back at the Commandant's quarters for a different use. So it's been a lot of recycling. We've repainted a lot of old furniture, exhibit furniture, and gotten it back into use. And we did all new displays in the Ross House pretty much during and right after COVID. So we're about to start changing them all again now that we've finished the CQ project.
I see. Okay, now another project that you got into, which I guess it evolved, that you weren't involved in it too much initially, is the 3D printing project.
Yeah.
And so give us a little background how this evolved.
Yeah, so this was actually ongoing when I had first started. And one of our volunteers named Ian had this idea that we should make models of historic Dearborn buildings that we could sell as Christmas ornaments. And it was going to be a limited production thing. And he initially made the model and then had it made at an off-site shop. They would print them with a 3D printer, and using a laser cutter, they would make wooden backs that were inserted that would tell you about the building. So originally, in the first year we did this, it was all made off-site. We just did a final assembly and we sold them. And we could only do about 100 or so at a time. They sold out and people just wanted more. So that winter, I threw out the idea that we should just buy our own 3D printers and our own laser cutter, and we should just make these ourselves. It'll cut out the middleman, we'll make as many as we want, and they're made a lot cheaper if we just do it ourselves. So we did that, and we invested in our own laser cutter. We invested in 3 3D printers, and Ian still makes our models. And now, basically every week throughout the year, we make about 50 of these a week, 365 days a year. So they're completely made in-house, painted, strung in-house, and every year we do a different signature ornament. This year's signature one is the Bryant Branch Library. And they're available in 2 colors, the gold and the pewter. And we've also done custom ornaments for people. We did a custom one for Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church. We've also done one for the Dearborn Theater Guild. So it's been a really great fundraiser for us. All the money for this goes to our nonprofit that helps support our museum. So if you've ever bought these in the past or want to in the future, the money goes to a really great cause.
I understand that, I can't remember her last name, but Shirley, who runs the shop, they have these in the shop available for sale.
Oh yeah.
And I think they move along pretty well.
They do. We sell several hundred a year. And we've made so many different models now. I think we've got about 15 different buildings for sale. So it's been a good time. Yeah. And these are all handmade, hand assembled, hand painted. So there's a little bit of us in it.
Now I know the way things go over there. There's activities like there's the teddy bear picnic. Okay.
Yep.
And then there's let's see, what's the one where there's stuff out for sale? What's that called?
The yard sale.
It's just a yard sale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a yard sale with some outside vendors also having allowed space and so on. And those activities always take you away from the normal maintenance operation. They do. Because there's all kinds of things that have to be carried here and there. And
oh yeah, we're always setting up tents. When we do the teddy bear picnic, I mean, we have DJs, we have a bunch of yard games. It's a really fun event. We get hundreds of people that come to it. In the fall, we do our annual beer festival, which is at the Commandant's quarters, and that's Halloween themed. So we get tarot readers, we get circus performers, we get all kinds of really fun stuff, and people have a really great time. And in the wintertime, we do our Victorian tea open house and Christmas. And we have our new event this year coming up, which was an event with DDA for Christmas.
Yeah, and those days you can't work on your maintenance or redecoration projects. You have to physically move stuff around. And
Yep, have to take a little break. But I enjoy the event planning aspect of the job too. I like putting on these events and promoting the museum and having a good time.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, you came up with, I don't know if you came up with it, but I'm sure you did it, is a little project for a sporting activity. I'm talking about the putting greens, the little putting greens.
Yeah, so this year for the beer festival, I wanted something kind of special, and I had seen some pictures online of various events that had these mini golf courses that lit up at night, and they had glow-in-the-dark balls and glow-in-the-dark holes and the putters and everything. So I thought I can make this. So I designed myself a 6-hole mini golf course that's mobile, that you can pick up and move around. And they have LED lights on them that can change to any color. I got glow-in-the-dark balls, I got lights for the holes and flags and everything. And they're all a slightly different obstacle. And when we debuted that at the Beer Fest this year, people loved it.
Yeah, and this is not an extremely simple thing, because putting greens have to be level, do they not?
They do.
So you have to provide a facility to make them level.
Yep, we try to make them as level as we can, but it's a good time.
Yeah. So what do they have, little adjusting devices on them?
Yep, we just kind of shim up the corners and put a level on it and just make sure it's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Depending on the surface, though, sometimes you just can't help it.
No, I know.
But we try our best.
Yeah. No, I was also a volunteer over at that, and I saw people out on those. They enjoyed it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Another thing we talked about briefly beforehand was you are not just involved in the McFadden Ross House and the museum facility down on Brady. Mm-hmm. You also involved with the Commandant's Quarters.
Oh yeah, yep. The Commandant's Quarters is one of our 4 buildings there. And for a lot of years it was kind of ignored, and it kind of didn't get the maintenance and it didn't get the attention that it needed. So since I've been working here, I've been trying to get more attention on it, have more events there, have more things to do there, and also improving the building slowly. So we're kind of working our way from the top down, and within another year or so, that building's going to be looking just as good as it did the day it was built.
That's great. That's great. I know you had lights up on the balcony. Did you put them up?
They were just for the Beer Fest. Yeah.
For the event. Yeah. And I also heard that you kind of updated the Christmas tree in there.
Yes. So this year, with having more attention on the CQ and us having more events there, I took out our 7-foot Christmas tree, which was kind of small for the space. And this year I bought a new 12-foot Christmas tree because we have 14-foot ceilings in there. So I wanted the space to look really full and nice. But we decorated the Christmas tree in period 1840s decorations. So it's got popcorn and cranberries and dried fruits and small little straw ornaments and things they would have had back then. So the Christmas tree is actually period to what they would have had when the house was first built in 1834. So I'm really proud of that. And we've gotten a lot of really positive reception on it. People love that Christmas tree. Yeah,
you were telling me that the devices are battery powered, but you can control them all with a single control. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they would have used real candles put on the edges of the lamps. But this year, I found some battery-operated candles that you can just remote click, and they all turn on, and it's just awesome. They look great.
Well, I'll tell you, it's really interesting, and you obviously have a lot of enthusiasm about your job.
I enjoy it a lot.
It shows very well. But we're going to take about a 1-minute break here, and for a little advertisement for Kiwanis, and we'll be right back after that with Tyler Moll, the exhibit designer from the Dearborn Historical Museum. So join us again right after the break.
It's easy to get caught up in the details. The day-to-day grind, numb to the noise, going round and round and round. Deep down, there's something missing, a void inside, a hole to fill, a life lacking. Then, in a minute of clarity, it hits you. The aha moment. You're needed. Kids need you. Kids of all kinds. All these funny, rambunctious, sweet, attention-seeking, vulnerable bundles of energy. They need your love and support. Some have huge life hurdles. Poverty, disease, hunger. And they're reaching out for you. Around the corner, around the world. You are a Kiwanian at heart, a role model, a guide, a builder of dreams. Together, we are Kiwanis, passionate and strong, ready to move mountains or grains of sand. Imagine every child reaching their potential. The power to help is in you. It's not about us. It's about them. Do you hear the call? Kids need Kiwanis. Kiwanis needs you.
Hello, this is KiwaniTalk, and we're here with Tyler Moll, the exhibit designer for the Dearborn Historical Museum. Tyler, again, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Right, we thought we'd go back and give a little historical background for the facilities that are part of the museum.
Sure. So the oldest building that we have is the Gardner House, which is on Brady Street and our kind of main campus. And that building was built around 1833. It was built as a settler cabin, and it was originally out on near Greenfield Road. And Henry Ford was neighbors with the Gardner family and remembers it growing up and stuff. So when in the 1920s he was putting together Greenfield Village, he actually had that house moved to Greenfield Village. But in the 1990s, they decided that they no longer wanted the house. So they donated it to the Dearborn Museum. So that was actually moved twice, eventually ending up at our site. And today we still keep that as an 1830s period house as a settler cabin and what it would have looked like when the Gardners lived there. So the next oldest building is the Commandant's Quarters. So that's on the corner of Michigan and Monroe, right in downtown. And that building was built just a year later, 1834. And that was part of the Dearbornville Arsenal. So that was a big compound there where they kept men and guns and cannons and things in case Britain would ever attack Detroit. So they kept it kind of inland. And at the time, there was no town here. Nothing really existed. It was just the arsenal. So the Commandant's Quarters was where the head person lived. The Commandant lived with his wife and kids. And it was a house all the way up until the 1870s when the arsenal closed. And then all the various buildings were kind of closed and sold off. And the Commandant's Quarters became a school for a little bit. It became Dearborn City Hall, became a library, became a police station and a fire station. And then in the 50s, they started to kind of slowly give it over to being a museum. And it's been restored several times back to its original condition now. And then our third historic house is the McFadden Ross House. So that actually started as an arsenal building too in 1839. And that was a black powder storehouse. So they kept big casks of gunpowder there. In case it ever exploded, they kept it about 2 blocks away from the arsenal. So it was just a simple kind of warehouse building at first. And when the buildings in the 1870s closed down and were sold off, a local Irish family, the McFaddens, bought the house and added all the windows and doors and kind of expanded it into a house that it is today. And it stayed in their family for 2 generations until it was donated in the 1950s to be a museum with all the furniture and everything intact. So that whole area along Michigan and Brady, that was the McFadden Ross farm. It was about 6 acres. And they had barns with animals. They grew their own produce and wheat and things like that. It was a working farm all the way up into the 30s, and then they kind of got too old to do it. And the last lady that owned the house died in 1950. And then we also have an office building there on Brady Street, and that's where we store all of our artifacts that are not on display and where our offices are and things like that.
Okie doke. Now we wanted to also talk about projects that might be coming down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, so our first project is just finishing the Commandant's Quarters in this new gallery style that we're doing. So it's got 8 rooms that are each going to be representing a different kind of 20 to 30 year period of Dearborn history. Again, starting with Native Americans, going all the way up to the present. So we're finishing a lot of the boards with that right now. We're moving all of the artifacts in. Once that's done, my goal is to move downstairs and repaint the last 3 rooms down there, the parlor and dining room and the arsenal room. And we're going to paint those in historic 1830s colors. And then next on my list is redoing all of the smaller kind of exhibit cases around the museum. The hallway at the Ross House, the exhibit cases in the Ross meeting room, and the basement of the Commandant's Quarters has an exhibit that's kind of a room size that takes a long time to set up. But in the future, we're hoping to work more on the Ross House basement. There's a school room down there that we use for our school program, and we're going to kind of add more lighting, paint it, make it a little bit lighter and brighter and more kid-friendly. We're going to add another kids' play station down there where they can do kind of more historical activities. We're trying to work on fixing up our archives a little bit with some new paint and flooring and lighting and things like that. So it's a lot of kind of building maintenance projects coming up, a lot of painting, a lot of just freshening up and making the place look really good again.
It's like a museum is like any other house.
Yep, always needs
There's
work.
Continual things that have to be done.
Yeah,
or that need to be done.
Right.
Say.
And another project we started this year was we expanded our vegetable garden. So I and some volunteers plant peppers and squashes and zucchinis and all kinds of things like that. And we give them out for free to our members that just come in the museum. But we also planted about 15 fruit trees. So apple and pear and cherry, and we planted grapevines, and we planted blueberry bushes and raspberries and blackberries and all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to make kind of a little farm going again. So we're excited for that.
Where are the fruit trees planted?
So they're planted kind of around the perimeter of the museum.
Around the perimeter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're excited for that. It's going to take a couple of years for them to grow in, but we should have some fruit in about 3 or 4 years.
Okay. I can just see. The next thing we were going to talk about is activities that repeat every year.
Yeah.
But I can see in the future there's going to be a harvesting, some
Yep.
kind of a harvesting activity. You
Yep.
know?
If all goes to plan.
Yeah. But let's do that now. Let's talk about the major events that occur around the year that the museum has every year. And these are most of these. Well, I suppose there are some up at the Commandant's Quarters, but
We've moved some there.
Okay.
But a lot of these do repeat year after year.
yeah. Well, let's just go through that. Why don't we start
Yeah.
at the beginning of the year and kind of go through
Yeah.
the major events that like
So our first major event is really our school program, where from March to June, we have every second grade class in Dearborn come to the museum, and they do hands-on activities from the pioneer era. So they get a lesson in the old schoolroom, they churn butter, they plant seeds and get to take them home. They go into the Gardner house, which is the pioneer cabin, and kind of see what pioneer life was like, and they do some tasks that people living in that era would have done. And that's been really great. We have anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 kids come every year for that. And the museum's been doing that for about 40 years now. So there are parents that come and say, I remember doing this when I was a kid, which really makes some of our staff feel pretty old.
Oh, wow.
And then in the summer, we do a big annual vintage yard sale where people donate items to us throughout the year. And they donate them to us to sell. It's not like museum stuff or anything. And we kind of accumulate it. And then in the summertime, we put it all out. And all of that money goes to our nonprofit. So it's a great fundraiser for us. And we're always willing to take donations of vintage things, no junk, if we can help it. So our other main event is the beer festival, which is Halloween themed. And we get several hundred people that come to that. And we do lots of fun things like tarot readers and card readers and things like that. And then our annual Christmas events, which is usually Victorian teas. This year we're doing a special one with DDA and meeting Santa, pictures with Santa, things like that.
Yeah. But there are a couple of youth events too. There's the
Yep.
Teddy Bear Picnic,
The Teddy Bear Picnic is every summer too.
and then the Halloween event.
And then the Halloween event, which is usually a trick or treat with several people in costumes, and kids kind of walk around and meet everybody.
Yeah. The kids really get a kick out of those.
Oh,
And
yeah.
They're pretty well attended, I think.
Yeah, we have a good mix of kids events and adult events.
Yeah. Okay, now let's just give some information, the website and so on, and how someone would call up if they wanted to come over the museum. The times the museum is open for visitors and so on.
Yeah. So the museum main office on Brady Street is open Monday through Friday from about 8:30 in the morning till 5 at night. The Commandant's Quarters is usually open Fridays and Saturdays right now, but we're soon going to be expanding that to make it open more often. You can find us online at thedhm.com. If you have Facebook, we have a really active Facebook account. We're also on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and anything else that comes up.
Okay. So Tyler, I looked at the number, and this is the general number for the on your card, and you have an email address. But I guess that goes directly to you. Is that right?
Yeah.
That goes to you. But the trouble with email, you're a working man, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't send you an email and expect you to read it in the next 15 minutes.
There is a main email on our website where anyone can send in questions or comments, and we'll always answer them right back.
Okay. Okay. Tyler, do you have any other comments that you'd like to make at this point?
I guess I'd just like to say the museum is changing a lot. It's changing for the better. And if you were there even just a couple of years ago, it's way different now and way better. And come visit us and see what it's all about.
Yeah. I've come over mostly as a volunteer because I can volunteer in the youth activities.
Yeah.
And my wife knows when they are because she's there every Thursday and she knows they're coming up. You know? Tyler, it's been great to have you on KiwaniTalk. And you can't believe how much nicer the museum is these days after all the work that Tyler and others have put into it in the last 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. And so thanks again for joining us, and thanks again for you for joining us on KiwaniTalk. Tune us in again soon.